What's up, YouTube? Demordred here, bringing you another information and tips video for Thea the Awakening by Muha Games. And today we're going to be covering the weapons in the combat and how to effectively use them and how kind of combat flows. I've seen a few videos that have misinformation, especially regarding how your characters target which card to attack. So we're going to jump into a fight real quick. And now I'm going to cover just the basic three attacks that you have. You have the options of slashing attacks, which swords and axes fall under. You have blunt damage, which is hammers and maces. And you have piercing damage, which is staves and spears. All of them deal straight damage to your opponents, but there are special rules with each one. Slashing damage, the axes have higher attack values than the swords, but offer no defensive value whatsoever. Whereas swords offer slightly less attack damage, but also give you shielding. And the way shielding works is it will absorb an attack up into the point of the total shielding you have, and then the damage is applied to your health. And the shielding returns each round of the fight. So shielding is kind of like a double dipping health, if you will. And that's what makes it good, especially with warriors, because of their special trait that allows them to equip two-handed swords in one hand and a shield with it. You're stacking up the high shielding from that. When it comes to blunt damage with hammers and maces, there's no difference between the two, except that maces are one-handed so that you can equip a shield with them, and hammers are going to be two-handed and deal more damage. The special thing about blunt damage, though, is when you kill your target, whatever damage is remaining in your attack carries over to the next target. So you can effectively kill two enemies with one attack if you get your damage up high enough. The final one is piercing attacks with your staves and spears. These are special in that when you send a card out, whether they come from your combat hand on the left or your tactical hand on the right by using the get closer function, your spear is going to deal half of its damage rounded down. So in this case, it's going to be 2. Keeping in mind that this special attack does not count for the poison or leech that might be on your weapon. It's only the straight damage. But anyways, it's going to do half of that damage to the card that it goes in front of. So basically it gets a surprise first attack in on a card, but that's only if the last card in play right here is the enemy. If it's one of your cards, the spear does nothing and just joins the end of the queue. So spears are very tactical regardless of which hand they're in, and you have to plan out how you're going to use them appropriately. So now I'm going to start playing some cards to kind of get this fight going, and then explain things as they play out. Personally, I like to have a hammer go out first, unless I know the enemy has a spear attack, and then I'll send out whoever has high shields. But since these are spiders, they never have spear attacks, and my hammer is now going to kill both of them in one attack, because she does 18 damage. It only takes 2 to kill this guy, so 16 of that damage is going to carry over to the next card, which will be this one, which only takes 4. They're both going to die. Now, some of the things that I've heard people say is that the target is determined randomly, and that is half correct. In a situation like this, your target is always going to be the next card on your right. The randomness comes into play if there is a card on your left and your right. Then you'll randomly select between the two. But you're never going to randomly select between 2 cards on your right or 2 cards on your left. The randomness only comes into play when you are surrounded and it's just those immediate ones to the left and the right. So with that knowledge, you can plan out your fights more accurately and with better precision. So she's going to kill both of them. I'm not worried about them. I don't need to confuse them. I don't need to shield her. We're fine. So then I would just send out my next hammer, because there's 2 more cards left. They'll be played at the end, and he will effectively kill them as well, assuming they have similar health to these 2. Send out my shield just in case. So now let's cover the piercing attacks. he has a 5 damage spear. Half of that rounded down is going to be 2. So it's not going to kill this guy. If the spider was similar to this one, then we could kill it. So instead, I'm going to wait and see what this card is, and maybe I can show you a kill. It is not. So when you use your spear, as long as the last card in the queue is an enemy, this spear will go in front of it and deal 2 damage, like so. So when you build up your warrior to have a strong attack value with a spear, you can then strategically kill a monster before it even gets to act. So let's say you don't have enough confuses to confuse everything, and the final card is going to be something that gets to attack before you. You can either kill it with the spear using the piercing attack special, or if it's not enough to kill it, it might be enough to lower it just enough so that your next attack, since you get to go before it, will be enough to kill it. In this case, the 5 plus the 2 poison will kill this card. The last thing I want to talk about today is the special damage modifiers that are on certain weapons, such as poison, and what's not depicted here is leech. So poison adds that straight value to your attack, so this guy does 17 base damage all the time. Now there's a special rule with poison. If the target is wounded, such as this spider is right now, and what wounded means is it has less current health than its maximum health. Poison damage in that case deals double damage. So where my spear does a base 7 damage normally, because this target is wounded, if he attacks to the right, it will now deal 9 damage. Leech acts similarly in that the number just adds straight to your base damage. So let's pretend this is a red leech instead of poison. Then his attack deals 17 damage. Leech does not get doubled against wounded targets, but what Leech does is if the user, like him, was wounded, let's say he's missing 3 health, then when he attacks, that Leech heals him for the number on the Leech. So he would deal 17 damage and heal 3 of that to himself. So Leech can be also very powerful and strategic in keeping your people alive. It's just something to keep in mind. So if you have any further questions when it comes to combat, leave me a comment, ask away. I love it. It will help me grow my channel. Until next time, this was the Mordred, and enjoy your games.